safe side, if you would be working on turnkey projects like warehouses and things like that, where you can come out quickly, I think the construction industry would benefit from there, rather than going for a 50-story building and a 100-story building. It becomes kind of difficult. But G+2s and G+5s, I think you'll be able to come out easy as soon as the lands are available. I hope I've answered that.
Hasnain, I'll just butt in. I think that's a very good answer, Hasnain, and I'll just use that opportunity to tidy up this other question about steel rates. Down from 6,000 to 3,000. Hasnain has just said they're down to 2.5. So if you're getting it at 3, get hold of Hasnain. He'll get it for you for 2.5. We have land in Sharjah and Ajman, and my question is the right time to go for construction. Hasnain's answered the question. I would say is a period of uncertainty and slowness, and hence you're in a better position with these sort of steel prices when the world is rethinking and recalculating and reassessing to use the opportunity to get yourself in there at a fairly good deal. Once the recovery starts, you will not pick up those sort of prices. There are contractors out there who probably in the next couple of months not going to have a lot of work, and they'll start, you know how big-headed contractors have become in the last 6 months. So just to add to that question, and more so, I think, you know, your example about 50-story buildings or warehouses and G+2s and G+3s, spot on, and I think that's a fantastic answer.
I think the second question I have here is, it's ongoing notion that real estate bubble will burst. What is your opinion? What do we call a bubble? From what I have studied about real estate, 15% down is a bubble in real estate. But as far as stock market is concerned, 15% down is correction. So it's very difficult to answer that. Do we have a bubble? I think what has happened, I think in my presentation I did mention that the properties, the pricing have become unrealistic. In the last 1 year, what we have seen, certain products which were selling. An example of Jumeirah Village. I recall about a year and a half back, Jumeirah Village square footage price was about 600 to 650 dirhams. Then we had people who started selling at 1,800 dirhams, and they said, oh, don't worry, just pay us 2%. So what happened was the investors felt that 2%, and that's exactly, I was just coming back to Akbar Bhai's comment here about the Axis or any other project. I think what you really need to look at today is what price you're buying. It's not what payment you're getting, because this is what has affected the whole market. As everybody, being an investor, has felt, let's look at the payment. If it's a good payment, let's go for it. But nobody looked at the end result. Today, the person who has bought in Silicon or who has bought in somewhere a commercial property for 725 dirhams, he's laughing. But then there's so many of us who have bought at 4,000 dirhams. And we're just looking at that guy and saying, hey, you did a good job at that time. So I think the most critical part of the whole thing here is look at what price you're buying. Because today it is going to be 100% business. It is not going to be a 10% business. And if that 10% business is still in your system, I think you should not be in the real estate market.
We have a question about the effect of the crisis in the African markets and Tanzania property prices and the stability of that particular market. Baba, you want to?
I would say Akbar Jaffer is the right person to answer this question, because he's done a lot of property development in Dar es Salaam. So is the property market effects of this crisis in Africa, Tanzania, property prices up, down, or stable?
Property prices in Tanzania. I mean, I've been saying that I will go against Mukhtar Bhai that some of the safest countries are Africa, in Africa, and particularly Central Africa. Section 14. And particularly Tanzania. At this moment, prices are going up. I've written an article to mention that people should be buying farms in Tanzania, and I've bought a few farms, and I would also encourage people to buy farms which are cheap at this price. Construction rates in Tanzania are as they were. There's not been much difference. The price of steel has not changed the prices, and the selling price is also at the same level. There is no real estate available in Tanzania because there is not much in the city itself. There's not much land available, and there is going to be a reverse immigration from most of the countries across where people have moved from Tanzania to come to travel elsewhere. That's it. I was going outside in it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. There is a small point that has come up a couple of times, and this is about the RERA rule of 30%. I know there are a couple of people with better legal exposure in the audience. Do you want to give us an opinion if there is a degree of certainty in your mind? Hussein? Manji? Can I get a mic over to Hussein, please? Or if you're coming here, that's even better. Hussein is a lawyer that has some exposure with RERA. He's working for a developer, Trident. And I had forewarned him that we might pull on him, and perhaps he can answer the question and maybe spend 3 or 5 minutes giving us possible loopholes of how to get out if we're in a mess.
Assalamu alaikum. Just a quick couple of points from the legal perspective. One website link which you should all log on to is rpdubai.ae, which is the RERA's official website. It has a list of all the approved developers, all the approved projects of the developers. So you can have an approved developer but not an approved project. It will also have details of the escrow account on there, who's approved, who has a special exemption, etc. I just take one step back. The escrow account rules are being applied very, very strictly at the moment. There used to be some leeway last year for developers to get special exemptions. Well, what I mean by special exemption is that law number 8 would not apply at all to some developers. What then happened was RERA, the Marwan's team, were very, very strict that every single developer had to comply with the escrow account rules. What there was leeway with was there are certain financial limits for developers to withdraw cash. For example, they can only withdraw 5% of the gross selling price for marketing, commissions, etc. They can only withdraw 5% of the construction cost for architects, consultants, etc. So there is a squeeze on developers, and exemptions are now being got by developers to extend those limits. So some developers get 10% marketing, 10% on project consultancy costs. That's where the exemption is. Now, just to let you know, escrow account is extremely, extremely tough. I know there is a perception in the market that developers have made a lot of money. Apart from Imar, I don't know how many other private developers have, and I'll tell you the reasons why. Because many developers delayed their construction. Many developers flipped the money around in the market and are in the same position that many private investors are at the moment and haven't started construction, so they're in a very bad position. Developers can only